In this lesson, we're going to continue to structure our HTML code and prepare it for adding in CSS. So let's just go back to our original design, and we can see that we've got several areas that we want to move around within our web page. And actually, I've done a little bit of a design change where I've actually moved out this container and separated those out. And the reason being is that I separated them out because this gives us more ability to move them around. So in case we want to move things around in a little bit of a different fashion, I've created that separation of those. So I've taken it out of that main container. So essentially we see that we've got our head, nav, search, first, second, and footer. Let's jump back into our editor and take a look at this, and of course it doesn't look really anything like it, so this is where we need to make some updates, and really it's just going to really come out when we start adding in the CSS. But before we do that, there's a few things I still want to add in within our HTML. So going over here, we've got an area for a logo, so maybe we want to have an H1. So typically you want the logo to show up really well, so maybe this is the company name or so on. And these can be within these top level containers. So see that we've got a structure here where we've got main containers that we want to move around and where we want to move them around, and then within them we've got subcontainers such as these ones where we've got contents that we want to move around, and then within these subcontainers again we're going to have even more content that we want to move around. So this can be under the company name, or maybe we want to keep this as a div. And we want to have this as the company name showing up here, and then we've got the company is the best. And for navigation. So typically with navigation you're going to see unordered lists used, and this is because this allows us to really present that content in a meaningful way that somebody looking at the HTML code could really easily understand that each list item is going to be a link, and we need to add in those hyperlinks as well. So I'm just adding in those. So the first one is going to link to the index page, which is the page that I'm creating right now, and this is going to be home. So let's save that, and when we save it, brackets is actually doing the beautifying here. So now we've got our first page, and most websites are going to have another page here, so this could typically link out to about. And then next we would have another one, maybe linking out to contact HTML. And then I believe we had one last one there for products or something like that. So let's add these in. So when you're designing your website, it's important to create this type of outline, how you want all of your HTML to be laid out, and then apply that styling afterwards. Because if you start applying the styling first, it gets a little bit complicated, and this is where we come up with that concept of placeholders, because we want all of the content to be ready and holding places when we apply our CSS that we know that it starts looking the way that we want it to look, and then we can make adjustments within the CSS as if we were using the real content that we want to present. So this one, I'm going to give it an ID so we can identify it and we can apply styling to it. I'm just going to call it search, and here we're only going to have one input here. This is going to be type. And we could type as an input, or we can even do a type as search. So now with HTML5, there's the ability to do search, and there really isn't a whole lot of difference between them at the moment. So you could do either one. So I'm just going to leave it as search, So it gives us essentially that input form, and this is understood that it's a search. So we can just add that in. And also with HTML5, we also have the ability to do placeholder. And this gives us the ability to add in some of that grayed out text search site. So there we've got our search box there, and then the idea here is once it gets entered, once you hit enter, then it will run the search of the form. And going down here, so now we need to add in some content. So maybe we want to even subdivide this content area. We want to maybe use article or something like that. So in case we've got several sections of content, because this is going to be our main content area. So let's go over to the placeholder text, their dummy text, select all, copy to clipboard. So this is where we're going to have predominantly the most text that we're going to be using. It's just entered in some dummy text there, and I'm going to actually do another article section. And I'm going to add in different type of text, and maybe this one's not going to be as lengthy. And copy that to clipboard and save that. Also, maybe we want to throw in some images, and this is where we've got placeholder image, so we can really easily add in an image. So this is to simulate, maybe in the text here we've got an image, and then maybe down here between these paragraphs we have another image, and maybe this one is pretty big. So now we've got some content in there, and that's ready to go. So over here we're going to have our sidebar. So we can have different sections within that sidebar. So we might have ads or something like that. Might even have another section, what's new. And I should add in some placeholders there. So maybe for the ad, we've got some images that are showing up. Let's do a line break and make this a small image, 250 by 250. And then here we've got what's new, so I need some text here. And we're going to have a little bit of text here. So this is where we can make some announcements and so on. So maybe this would even be a larger H2. And lastly, for the footer, so this can contain some copyright, contact, about the website. And sometimes you might see that footer area is divided up into several sections as well. So we can add in, maybe we can have 2 or 3 separate sections for the website. So it should be section. So one might have some copyright information, the other one might have some contact information, and lastly we might have some menus or location or something like that. So let's save all of that, have it beautify. Now let's open up our web content, and so it's looking a little bit better, but still, of course, it doesn't really look much like a website. And then this is where the CSS is really going to come in, because this is going to give us the ability to transform this into an actual website. So now we've got a bunch of text there, we've got some images and content. So we've got our basic placeholders up and ready to go. We've got everything looking like we're ready to start adding in the CSS. So that's coming up in the next lesson, and we're going to build out the website, so transforming all of this into an actual website, and that's coming up with the CSS in the next lesson.